World Series. The fight for the championship rages on. The fans wait. The pulse quickens. And the engines are ready for life. It's a hot day here in Cleveland. The fans are all filling the grandstands, looking forward to a run for the Indy cars. And midsummer chase for the championship and the PPG Cup. And now it's time for the start of the engines.
Wild Boys out, 74 points.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Back close.
So the clock going out, apparently for gentlemen, start.
Each turbocharged engine, 161 cubic inches, boosted to over 750 horsepower, ready to go. A quick glance to each readout to assure driver and crew all is ready. Then a check of voice transmissions on the radio and telemetry data. They wait for the final temperatures and pressures to read normal, and then the field will pull away. Nigel Mansell, the reigning World Formula One champion, as he sits and waits. The front row is set. Emerson Fittipaldi in his car. Paul Tracy is there. And we are set to go racing in Cleveland. The Indy cars are at the halfway point in the championship. 50 drivers joined the battle. 1,600 miles have gone by. But much of the fight has centered on two men. Nigel Mansell is the reigning Formula One champion. His incredible skills have brought him to the top of the points. For Nigel, courage is common. Twice Emerson Fittipaldi wore the Formula One crown and added an Indy 500 and PPG Cup. His 46-year-old eyes sparkle with youth and racing savvy. The two first met in Indy cars on the front row in Australia. At first, Emo's experience took control. But then it was Nigel's courage. He drove deeper and came home with the win. The first IndyCar driver ever to drive pole to checker in his first race. In practice at Phoenix, Nigel slammed the wall. In the race, Fittipaldi suffered the same fate. At the Indy 500, the two were at each other once again. Nigel in front on a restart fell victim to his inexperience and Emo's savvy. Emo's second checkered flag at the Brickyard made it 1-1 in his battle with Mansell. Age and experience were helping Fittipaldi catch Nigel in the points fight. On the Milwaukee Mile, Mansell led a wonderfully consistent Raul Boesel to the flag. It was Mansell's first oval win and number 2 for the season. On Belle Isle in Detroit, the two antagonists again shared the front row. Emerson was offline and into the tire barrier. Nigel's in was a little harder as he caught the wall. In Portland, the two great champions took the fight further. Under pressure from Emo, Nigel went off course. The way was now clear for Fittipaldi to pull even with Mansell at 2 wins each. But it was Nigel Mansell that was leading the points. Today's fight is the Burke Airport in Cleveland, a wide, bumpy surface that can give even the best false security that is rewarded with screaming tires. A wide track can mean big mistakes. Last year, Michael Andretti battled Fittipaldi here and lost. How will Michael's replacement, Nigel Mansell, fare against the 3-time winner here? Or against Bobby Rahal, who hasn't finished worse than 4th in the last 6 races in Cleveland? Or Danny Sullivan, a 3-time winner? Or the consistent Raul Boesel, second in the points, on the verge of his first win? Cleveland is an enigma. It requires the zest of youth and the wisdom of age to succeed. As the heat settles over the East, it only adds to the challenges for the IndyCar teams as they face the Cleveland Grand Prix presented by Goodyear. Hi, I'm Paul Page, and this course on an airport at nearly 2.4 miles long means that the teams can make no mistakes when they calculate the pit stops on this rough, bumpy surface on a hot day. Let's take a look at how the points battle shapes up here with Nigel Mansell at the top, despite the fact that he did not race at Phoenix. Very consistent in second place is Raul Boisel, who only once has finished out of the top 10. In third is Emerson Fittipaldi, who has had an up-and-down season, but on this track last year, he drove to win the fastest road race in IndyCar history at 133 miles an hour. But Sam Posey, that points fight is really heating up.
Well, it is. After Mansell won Milwaukee 3 races ago, he appeared poised to run away with the championship. Now, that has not happened, although he still leads it by a few points. Both Boisel and Fittipaldi have him in their sights. Boisel, as you said, the most consistent finisher, is planning to try to wear him down. And Fittipaldi, well, he outran him last week in Portland, and they very well have the faster car. I don't think Nigel's on the defensive yet, Paul, but he may very well be by the end of today.
Of course, the challenge common to all, Bobby Unser, is one tough racetrack.
Well, Paul, this is the fastest road course on the IndyCar circuit, but it certainly isn't the easiest. There are several important things to consider. Number one, the track is built on an airport that has cement runways connected by asphalt taxiways. And as you watch, you'll see how extremely bumpy it is where they meet. This causes the track to be very hard on the transmission. Secondly, it's hard on the drivers too. The bumps cause the driver to constantly fight the steering wheel a whole lot more than usual, and their heads are always bobbing up and down, which makes it real difficult to focus, and especially in the traffic. Last but not least, it's over 90 degrees. This will affect the drivers, the cars, and the racetrack.
So part of the challenge here today, 29 Indy cars are started and moving behind Johnny Rutherford in the pace car. Let's look at the starting field. With 2 wins and 4 poles this season. In row 2, it's Emerson Fittipaldi, a 3-time winner of this race. And Stefan Johansson seeking his first IndyCar win. In the 3rd row, Scott Goodyear looking for his first win of the season. And Danny Sullivan with 3 wins and 2 poles at this track. In row 4, Al Unser Jr., the winner of this event in 1985. And Mark Smith, a rookie driver who is showing well with a year-old Penske and a Chevy V engine. Inside row 5 is Teo Fabi, the former IndyCar Rookie of the Year, and Bobby Rahal, who won his first ever IndyCar race at this track in 1982. In the 6th row, it's Mario Andretti, the only driver ever to win an IndyCar race in 4 different decades. And Raul Boisel, a runner-up 3 times this year. In row 7, Brian Till, in his best start ever. And Willie T. Ribbs, who has scored points in 2 races this season. In row 8, it's Arie Luyendyk, the runner-up at Indy, and Scott Brayton. In row 9, Olivier Griard and Roberto Guerrero. The 10th row, Christian Danner and Robbie Gordon. In row 11, Hiro Matsushita and Kevin Kogan. The 12th row, Buddy Lazier and Lynn St. James. In row 13, it's Ross Bentley and Robbie Buell. The 14th row, Brian Bonner and Jeff Wood. And alone in the 15th row is Marco Greco. So they line up on the pace lap now and making the turn back from the far east loop of this track along the grandstands, a little chicane, and then the start-finish straight away. Paul Tracy sits on the pole, Nigel Mansell to the outside. The IndyCar drivers and officials are still discussing the starts of these races. The officials now say if you are misaligned on the start in the back of the field, you can in fact be black flagged for a bad start. Paul Tracy brings them off, heading toward the green flag. He accelerates, leads the field across the line as the green flag comes out, and they spread wide going into the first turn. A nice wide runway surface, and look at Mansell as he comes down the inside. 2 cars in trouble. 3, 4 cars on the start of the race. 3 cars together, maybe 4. 3 of them appear stopped. Yellow flag flies in that area as Nigel Mansell picks up the lead, and the rest of the field strings out behind. We'll see if they go a full course yellow. It will depend on how fast they get Roberto Guerrero, and Raul Boisel is involved in that as well. And it looked like the other car might have been Willie T. Ribbs. At the front of the field, they battle. Paul Tracy chasing Nigel Mansell, looking for room to race on the inside. Emergency vehicles rolling to that scene in the first turn, but they continue to race under the green flag on the rest of the circuit. It's certainly plenty wide there. They should be able to race past them. Mansell coming down to complete the first lap, and we go to yellow around the course. So the pace car will come out. Nigel Mansell will lead the first lap, followed by Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi. As a result of the cars in contact in turn number 1 here. They'll come past that right away. We can look at it now from the blimp. Here's the field coming down. Mansell makes his sweep to the inside, but look toward the back of the field, Bobby.
Yes, you can see they're all diving towards the bottom. Now look at here how they have to go down like a funnel. And right in there, they all started collecting because you can see they were 4 and 5 wide, and they had to get down to 2 lanes wide in the corner, and it just wouldn't fit, Paul.
It looked like the other car that spun there but continued on might have been Bobby Rahal, the inaugural winner of this event. But it looked like he got it back under control, that I think he was involved in contact. We'll have to check that in the pits.
This is the easiest place to pass on the course going into that turn right off the start-finish line. And the trick to it is to go to the inside. So if a guy's going really fast, he's on the outside, he makes a normal apex into the turn, a guy can dive underneath him. In this particular case, they had about 10 guys trying to do the same thing.
All right, we have the time now. Let's go down pit side and begin some updates there with Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, first of all, let me show you behind me. They've brought out the front nose cone and a new wing system for Al Unser Jr. He was second quickest in early morning practice today. This could be a bad break for him, although they are going to be able to do it under full course yellow. Now, to update you on the continuing discussions about starts here within IndyCar racing. 27 minutes of the drivers' meeting was devoted to it, and there is some serious discussion about changing the rules, but not for this race. There is a cone some 300 yards before the start-finish line, and at this point, the start that we saw today, it was up to the front row not to accelerate until they hit that cone. Let's check in with some more unfolding information on pit road with my colleague Gary Gerald.
Jack, couple of key concerns. It's already been mentioned, the heat and the roughness or the bumps on the circuit. But 2 key drivers, Nigel Mansell and Stefan Johansson, have got to contend with another big factor. Both of them are driving with sprained right wrists, suffered in fluke accidents yesterday. Mansell, going to a post-qualifying news conference, stumbled on the stairs, fell, and he hurt the right wrist. X-rays disclosed no fracture. There was discomfort, however. He was fast in this morning's session, but he's got to run 200 miles, not just a handful of laps in the warm-up. Johansson in the pits yesterday. Andretti came in, clipped the nose of Johansson's car. The wheel whipped in the cockpit with his hand on it. It sprained his right wrist. So he also has the right wrist heavily taped. They've got a lot of shifting to do over 200 miles. It could be a very tough day for both of those men, Paul.
In fact, by Nigel Mansell's calculations, 1,700 shifts between now and the end of the race. By the way, you saw Bobby Rahal and Roberto Guerrero walking away from the track. Here is Bobby Rahal's on-board view of this situation on the start.
They say it was obvious, Paul, that he got touched from behind. Cars were touching everybody. There really wasn't much they could do because they were all trying to get down in too fine a place. Here's another angle to look at here now.
The irony is that this is one of the widest tracks you'll ever see in racing. Look at them. They're all over the place like an LA freeway. You'd think there'd be enough room, and there wasn't.
But, Sam, we thought that they were 5 wide. They were probably 7 or 8 wide there for a while.
And there are several other cars unaccounted for. You got it. Well, there's Rahal and Roberto Guerrero as they walk back. You got a glimpse, though, of Mark Smith in that onboard view from Bobby Rahal's car. He certainly was tapped by Rahal during that spin. So we are under a full course yellow that came out on the very first lap here at Cleveland.